pleased to see such a great turnout tonight. If we could all take our seats.
Testing 1, 2.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming. My name is Catherine Golub. I'm the president of Phillips Manor Improvement Association. This is Lisa Santos. She's the president of Sleepy Hollow Manor Association. And every year we like to host the debate night where we have our candidates come and answer questions from the audience. On your chairs, beneath some of the other flyers you have, since we have you all in this room, we'd like to point out the parking rules for those of you who use the parking lot. Just a friendly reminder, while we have you all here, please bring these home with you and read them over. Our moderator tonight is Sam Gonzalez. And I'll be He will be going over the rules, and I will turn this over to Sam. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This one's working.
That should be good for you,
Okay, good evening, everybody. Sam Gonzalez. I want to welcome everybody to Candidates Night here at the Village of Sleepy Hollow. Can you hear me? All right, how's that? Is that better? All right, well. I think that mic is better. Can we put this one here?
It's not cordless.
Oh, this is not cordless. Okay, is that better? All right. I got the Arifa, microphone over here. That'll work. All right. So good evening, everybody. Tonight you're going to hear from the candidates, and to my right here we have the Democratic and Responsive Government Party, and to my left we have the candidates from the United Sleepy Hollow slate. They're going to be introducing themselves in a minute, but what I wanted to do first is just go over the ground rules for this evening. And we've already discussed and given the candidates the ground rules in advance. So tonight, each candidate will have 2 minutes for their opening remarks. These remarks are basically intended to provide you with an introduction to the candidate and a statement of their position. However, the candidate can basically say anything that they think that's really important for you to hear as voters in the community. The candidates for mayor will begin the remarks first. We're going to be starting off with Ken, and then Karen will follow. And then the trustees will follow in alphabetical order based on the first letter of their last name. After the first hour of their presentations, we're going to give everybody an opportunity to ask questions, and we basically have some ground rules around questions, and they're pretty simple. We ask that a question be a question and not a statement, okay? And basically, the moderators will basically halt anyone if they come up and start making speeches, okay? So the speeches are intended for the candidates this evening. Also, the party or the candidate to whom the question is addressed, they're going to have basically 2 minutes to respond to every question. Everybody in the room will have an opportunity to ask questions. We're going to be taking questions from the Manor residents first, and then we'll open it up to the rest of the residents in the community. And that's basically it. A candidate chosen by the opposing slate will have an opportunity to respond to any questions or comments that are made by the candidates. And all questions will be taken up to we get to the point to about 9:30 or so, and then at that point, we're going to be closing it for closing remarks. So we're going to start with opening remarks, we'll take questions, and then we'll have closing remarks for the candidates in the order that I already gave. Okay, so we're going to begin, and Ken is going to start.
Okay. Thanks, Sam, and thanks to both Manor Associations for continuing this wonderful tradition of these debates. Everyone in this room wants to see a better Sleepy Hollow, and that's one thing on which there is no debate. Where there is a difference between the Unite Sleepy Hollow slate and our opponents is on the vision and how do we get there. I've worked hard. I've brought a creative approach. I've thought outside the box. And that's why I was able to get things away from the lawyers and push the GM project over the finish line. That's why I was able to secure a new site for our water reservoir from the Rockefeller family, a site that was gifted to the village. We have an opportunity to create an extraordinary village. When we consider the environment, our waterfront, alternative forms of transportation, securing affordable housing and economic fairness, and celebrating the many cultures in our village. We need to continue to be creative as we plan for our future, and we need to bring the most creative thinkers to the table as we plan for that future. But in the immediate future, right now, we must pay attention to how Lighthouse Landing is constructed. It's a massive project, obviously, and it will not take care of itself, as my opponent has stated. We need to be sure that approved plans are followed, that the roads, water, sewer lines, the buildings themselves are properly engineered and constructed, that public safety issues are addressed. We will bring in our own team of professionals to be sure the village is protected and not rely on the assurances of the developer. We can't allow this project to dictate how this village will grow. We need to actively work to ensure that everyone in our village benefits. Thank you.
Hi, I'd like to thank everyone for coming here tonight. I'm sure you can all hear me. And I'd like to thank the PMIA and the Sleepy Hollow Manor Association for hosting. I'm Karen Wampa. 20 years ago, my husband and I bought a home here in Sleepy Hollow, where we are now raising our 2 children who are attending Sleepy Hollow Middle School. 7 years ago, I decided to run for trustee, and I have served this village with dedication, integrity, and professionalism. We are now at a pivotal point in Sleepy Hollow. The plans and the commitment and the work that we put into place now will determine the success of the projects that lie ahead and will determine the future of this village. With Lighthouse Landing ready to begin, and as important as it is, there are so many other issues in this village that need attention as well. Our tax base continues to decrease. The burdens of our property tax is weighing on us, and a revitalization program that truly needs the earnest support of its mayor and board. It is time for a change in leadership, which is why I decided to run for mayor. During the past 7 years as a trustee, I've used my management experience to identify initiatives, plan appropriate courses of action, and then manage them through to completion. As mayor, I will have the additional resources and the abilities to set the direction for implementing the plans needed to address the issues facing us today, which have gone unattended for way too long. As a trustee, I have learned the importance of needing to have a strong mayor, one who supports and respects the board members and is present to represent this village's needs. We will speak of many issues here tonight, and I hope you will leave with a clear understanding of the differences between these 2 slates and how important this election is to the future of our village. Thank you for coming.
Okay, at this time, the trustees are going to give their opening remarks.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Sam. Thank you to the associations for hosting. And thank you all for caring enough about our village to come out tonight. After 3 terms on the village board, I believe I have the experience needed at this crucial time in Sleepy Hollow history. The Lighthouse Landing development will transform the village. It can be an opportunity, or it can be an albatross. We have to control the development, not let it control us. Much of the work should have already begun, but hasn't. We have only one chance to do it right, and the work starts now. By re-electing me trustee, you get a trustee who knows the ropes. I've established a relationship with the project manager for the developer, SunCal. I'm on the GM committee, the local development corporation, and I'm familiar with every step in the process over the last 6 years. I am keenly aware of the issues it creates and will have to be dealt with. Traffic and parking, how best to use the land coming to the village, how to protect the diversity of the village while revitalizing downtown, how to manage and balance new tax revenues against the need for new and expanded services. I'm deeply interested in the preservation of the waterfront and our parklands. I have already brought together the developer, the county, Scenic Hudson, and the village to work to try and ensure that green space is created along the river, that the Riverwalk is opened, and the badly needed improvements to Kingsland Park are realized. I'm also a big believer in shared services. I helped initiate talks with Terrytown to merge the recreation departments in our villages, and I'm working on finding a model for our struggling ambulance corps that will help sustain it into the future. In the past, I have helped revive the signature event in our village, Halloween, turning it from a losing proposition about to be canceled to a month-long celebration that has been seen a surge in tourism, boosting local businesses. In my 3 terms as trustees, I believe I have been an articulate, independent voice for my neighbors and the village. I've advocated policies that are reasonable and practical. I've been responsive to the needs and desires of my constituents. In June, I will retire from my career, and if you'll let me, I will spend more time and more independence on the village. Thank you very much.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Manor Association, Sam, thank you for hosting this event. For those that don't know me, my name is Jose Chavert. I have lived in this village most of my life, all of my adult life. And just a little bit about me. I'm married, I have 2 children, one who graduated from Sleepy Hollow High School, one who is about to this June. I was a former trustee back in the 90s during another administration. And during that time is when Sleepy Hollow was actually renamed from North Tarrytown to Sleepy Hollow. Also, that board together collectively, we were able to have enough foresight to negotiate with General Motors at the time to level the property so that at the time General Motors was a factor of it had a reputation of just putting a padlock on the fence and walking away from property. With 97 acres of waterfront property here, we knew it was too valuable just to let it be a shell of a factory there. We were able to work with General Motors to actually negotiate a plan to knock the plant down and open up basically an open canvas for any developer to come in and develop. Some of my activities within the community, I served on the board of Phelps Memorial Hospital for 9 years. I was a member of the Rocker Salvation Church board for many years. I'm a member currently of the Hispanic Democrats of Westchester. And I'm also a retired serviceman with 3 deployments. I'm also a supervisor at the Department of Corrections. As far as public safety, I have some experience as far as administrating law enforcement and how to develop tactics and plans to be able to create a safer Sleepy Hollow. One of my priorities, if elected, would be to help with the downtown restoration. Our village, they will see Beekman Avenue before they see the property. And basically, my time is up, so I guess we'll talk later.
Hello, my neighbors. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. It's a really great turnout. My name is John Levy. We are at a very important time in our village history. Our elected officials must make many critical decisions in the next couple of years. Notice I said elected officials, not politicians. We need to elect competent, even-tempered, hardworking individuals who will do the work together and complete the tasks. We need a board that will work with the mayor to get things done. This is not happening now. My neighbors, tonight I ask you for help. I realize we are all busy working, raising our families, dealing with the pressures of high taxes and bills, but we also all love our village. You wouldn't be here tonight if you didn't, and I thank you. Let's stop the nonsense. I am a leader. I recently retired from the FDNY after 20 years as a lieutenant. I have been active in our community, in the schools, the arts, music, and our beloved beach club. I get things done. I expect that from anybody I work with. Just ask these people. Let's change the board and make Sleepy Hollow great. I come from a culture of teamwork and respect. My life and the lives of my coworkers often depended on that. Let's return those values to 28 Beekman Avenue next Wednesday. I ask you to vote Unite Sleepy Hollow next week and help our village. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mary Linder. The day we moved to Sleepy Hollow, my son Max and I went fishing at Kingsland Point Park. That was 7 years ago. Those of you who know Max know you can still find him down there at Kingsland fishing every chance he gets. So from the very start, Sleepy Hollow and the Hudson River felt like home to us. Right after we bought our house, I started hearing about the big changes taking place in the village. As a new homeowner, they sounded exciting but a little bit scary. So early on, I decided that I'd better figure out what's happening here so I could be a contributor instead of a complainer. As I learned more, it struck me that my work experience might be an asset in managing some of these changes. That's my second reason for running for trustee, applying what I'd learned in business to the quality of life here. For more than 25 years, I was head of brand strategy at 3 big companies, Estee Lauder, the Intercontinental Hotels, and Northwest Airlines. My job was to present and promote the company brands, how they looked, what they stood for, and what we said about them. A huge part of my job was overseeing new sites for the brands. It could be an airport in Tokyo, a hotel in Caracas, or a Lauder store in Soho. In all cases, I worked with local developers to ensure that the company standards were met, that our employees and customers were happy, and crucially important, that our brands fit into the local environment. So when I look at the projects that we're facing here, I see a terrific fit between my experience and the skills we need. We need to know how to work with developers, how to speak their language. We need to know how to negotiate, how to represent our residents and what they care about. We need to understand large-scale projects and how to integrate them. We need to know what a great village street would look like and how to design it. We need to attract new merchants to keep our visitors in Sleepy Hollow, not let them escape to Tarrytown. We need to preserve our many cultures while touting our progress. As a trustee, I would bring years of experience doing these things. I think I would know how to get this right, how to manage this change, how to help define what this village could be in the future. And frankly, I'd be proud and really excited to be part of the team that did it. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Glenn Rosenblum. And first, I'd like to say thank you to the Manor boards for hosting tonight's event and for all you do to support our village. So let me begin by sharing my background. I've lived in Sleepy Hollow for 25 years with my family. Professionally, I have extensive management experience, including 15 years as an executive at the Walt Disney Company. Serving community has always been important to me. I've been a youth sports coach for 20 years and an advocate for improving our parks. I've served on Sleepy Hollow's planning board, including 1 year as chairman. I became a trustee in 2013, and I'm proud of what I've accomplished. As a member of the GM negotiating team, I helped the Lighthouse Landing deal cross the finish line. As chair of Parks and Recreation, I'm working with Tarrytown to implement a plan for shared services. I helped secure a sizable grant from New York State to renovate our most heavily used park in the inner village and played a leading role in driving Sleepy Hollow's first tax lien sale in 20 years, helping to recoup nearly $500,000. While I'm a lifelong Democrat, I have lost faith in the leadership of the local party and their insistence on using a caucus by invitation only system to select candidates. Sleepy Hollow deserves the best public servants regardless of national party affiliation. It's not about red states. It's not about blue states. It's about Beekman Avenue and it's about Bellwood Avenue. I'm proud to run on the Unite Sleepy Hollow ticket, a party whose candidates are committed to the highest ethical standards, to open and transparent government, civil discourse, and judgment of issues based on the interests of the entire village. If you believe in these values, then I urge you to please vote for the entire Unite Sleepy Hollow line. Our vision for improving quality of life and revitalizing our downtown district promises a better future for all of us. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Denise Scaglione. My husband and I have lived in Sleepy Hollow for 16 years. First in Weber Park, where we lived for 9 years, and the last 7 in Phillips Manor. We have 2 sons in the public schools. One's a freshman at the high school, and the other is a 5th grader. I grew up in Westchester, earned my degree in business administration, and worked at Hitachi in Tarrytown for many years before becoming a stay-at-home mom. When my youngest son went to kindergarten, I went back to work, and I am currently the office manager at a local preschool. I have always been active in our community. I have been the VP of membership for the Phillips Manor Beach Club for the past 3 years. I've been involved with the EPTA of the Tarrytowns, where I've served as class parent for several years, a term as class VP, coordinating student events with parents and school administrators. I was also involved in the school district's Fields and Capital Improvement Committee last year, which worked hard to get a public vote passed for new fields and facilities upgrades. I'm also involved with Wolfpack Youth Football, where I coordinate fundraising for the program, in which we support the village during Halloween with volunteers for the hayride. I also volunteer for CYO, and I'm a Eucharistic minister at the Church of the Magdalene. I first started thinking about running for village trustee when I got a huge wake-up call last summer, witnessing a vote by the board rejecting a police officer candidate who was a decorated war veteran, highly qualified, and strongly recommended by the police chief. My father is NYPD. He's retired. My brother is a police officer in Greenberg. So public service is in my DNA. I took the police exam many years ago myself. So public service is in my DNA. If elected, I will use a common sense approach to decision making, consider different points of view. I have a background in business administration, and as a working mom, I'm organized and efficient, and I can bring that experience to the board. Given my background, I have a special interest in parks and recreation and public safety. With new land becoming available, the possibilities for our parks and recs is really exciting. I'm looking forward to serving the village and helping Mayor Ray continue the great work he's already started. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to be taking questions now. One of the things we're going to ask the residents is that when you have a question, if you can please direct it to a specific candidate. But if you want to open it up to the slate, that's fine as well. But just make that clear when you're asking your question. What we're going to do is give everyone an opportunity to ask questions. We're going to take questions from the Phillips Manor and Sleepy Hollow Manor first. So we also ask that when you stand to give your question, to please state your name and your where you live, okay? So I'm going to pass it over to Elliot.
Who wants to ask the first question? Sir.
Hi, my name is Clifton Cloud. I live at 415 North Broadway, Phillips Manor. I have a question for Karen. You spoke passionately about the Downtown Development Corporation. And I read an article in the River Journal that this facade grant was granted to the village attorney, Gina Gandolfo. And I just want to know if that's true. And if it's true, how does that help the downtown that you're so passionate about?
Well, in 2009, when this administration took over, we already had $385,000 in facade grant money that had been awarded to us. And basically, with Roseland having left the development, there was nobody to provide funding for administrative staff to oversee the grant. So I brought in Susan Roth, and rather than just forfeit the money back to the state, which really has a double impact. One, it doesn't get invested into properties in Sleepy Hollow, and two, it doesn't put us in a good light for the next time we apply for a grant. So what had happened was Susan Roth worked tirelessly tirelessly to get people to apply for this grant. It was not easy. It's a matching grant, and a lot of these landlords are absentee landlords, and a lot of these businesses have month-to-month leases. So each time somebody was interested in applying for this grant, like Bridgeview Tavern down at the western end of Beekman Avenue, or Vienna Pizza down at Clinton Street, or Horseman Diner up on Route 9, Susan would go to the state and put in a request to extend the target area. Ms. Gandolfo is in partnership with one of our Sleepy Hollow police officers. She owns a rental apartment building, which is considered a business on Clinton Street. The police officer owns another building on Clinton Street. He came and he inquired about the facade grant. Unfortunately, though, his mother, who is a half owner of that other building, that is her primary residence, which no longer makes it a business, so it didn't qualify. So the police officer, who's the partner with Ms. Gandolfo, went to Ms. Gandolfo and told her about the facade grant. And Susan Roth said to Ms. Gandolfo, please, please do apply. This money is meant to improve downtown Sleepy Hollow. And this building houses low-income residents, which is another mission for the facade grant, is to provide safe housing for low-income residents. She did $8,000 worth of improvements, and she received a 50% reimbursement from the facade grant. That's how it helps the downtown. The low-income residents that live there, and it makes our downtown look better.
Okay. Rebuttal.
Thank you. Actually, to answer your question, I think you should all know, as you probably suspect, the village actually has a code of ethics. And it says not only should there not be a conflict of interest, you should avoid the appearance of a conflict of interest. And I think this is certainly the appearance of a conflict of interest, where you have a grant program that awards a grant to the village attorney in partnership with one of our police officers.
Next question.
Thank you. My name is Edward Carroll. I live at 265 Harwood Avenue, and I have a question for Mrs. Linder. Oh, sorry. I have a question for Mrs. Linder. Mrs. Linder, you told us something about your branding experience in business over the last 25 years, and what I'd like to understand is what you can bring to bear on the Sleepy Hollow branding, how you can enhance the village's image on the basis of your experience. We all recognize Sleepy Hollow as the center for Halloween, and that's great, but we don't want it to turn into another Salem, Massachusetts. So how could you handle that? Thank you.
The questioner seems to know a lot already, so I hope I can add to that. You know what's really interesting about Sleepy Hollow, I think, as opposed to almost any place in Westchester, we already have a brand, the name Sleepy Hollow, that a lot of people all over the world have heard about. But that, and in marketingese, that's sort of a challenge as well as an opportunity. What we are is we're a town with lots of things going on. We certainly are already known for the Headless Horseman, but we're much more than that. We're a town on the Hudson River. We're a town near New York. We have great housing. We have different kinds of housing. We have a very diverse culture. And now we have this Lighthouse Landing coming on board. So what do we do with all that? I think, how do we actually position that? I think we need to position it carefully and strategically. What I think we need to do is we need to really look at the comparison of this town with other towns. We want to understand why we stand out. Some of the branding that I've done is really working on some very complicated brands in complicated markets and trying to figure out how to set up what is the competitive advantage, to put it in real marketingese. I think it's important that we look at things like some of the towns in Brooklyn, in New York, like Chelsea, Park Slope, Dumbo, Williamsburg, those towns that have really kept their core, but they put together more attractions to make people come. What's important about Sleepy Hollow is that we be known as a vibrant, diverse culture that's a great place to live and work besides visit. We want visitors, but I don't think we want to be just a place that people come to for Halloween once a year. So I would be really excited to work on branding Sleepy Hollow. There's a million things I think we can do, and we can make it a really compelling brand. Thanks.
So I mentioned that I work for the Walt Disney Company, so we know a little bit about branding at Disney. And no, I do not want to build a theme park here, so don't get worried. But I do think that we have an incredibly powerful brand. There's a television show called Sleepy Hollow. Wherever you go in the world and you tell people where you live, they go, wow, you live in Sleepy Hollow. And all of that's great. That means that we have a built-in advantage. The problem is, though, when folks get to Sleepy Hollow, they really don't see what they thought they were going to see. And I think a lot of that has to do with the vitality and the strength and the attractiveness of the downtown area of the village. Yes, we've had a Downtown Revitalization Corporation. It's been in existence for 6 years or so. I'm still seeing an awful lot of revitalization that needs to be done. I think it's really about attracting investors, a public-private partnership, to get people who are willing to take the risk, first movers. Right now they're seeing a challenge. They're not seeing a lot of businesses that are vibrant, open in the community. They're not seeing in their minds a lot of competitors of theirs that make them comfortable. So there's a lot that we need to do to reinforce the potential of the village. We have an amazing brand, and it's going to happen for us, but it's going to take a little while.
Next question.
Hi, I'm Catherine Golub on DeVry Ave, and my question is directed to Ken Ray. We're concerned about, with the development of Lighthouse Landing, how that's going to impact the manor, since it will abut directly to the manor. And we're worried and concerned about how we'll be preserving the tree line, the tree buffer, what will happen to the Pecanico River, and how we'll interact with historic Hudson Valley to make sure that it keeps its charm and it keeps its separation.
Thank you. First of all, if you haven't seen it, the special permit, that is the plan, the approved plan that tells the developer everything they can do on the site in sort of mass scale, not the detail of it. There is a prohibition against it going through Kingsland Park. So one of the key considerations that we had was we wanted to make sure that as this thing gets built out right below us here, we understand that that's going to be the new voting block in this village. It has way more households than both of your manors combined. So they're going to be able, when we have these debates in the future, they're going to be the ones who can be the kingmakers, queenmakers. So what we wanted to do was make sure that there was no way they would put a road through Kingsland Park, come out over the bridge and say, oh my, look at these nice wide roads that we can drive on to get to 117 and north. So that's number one. We wanted to ensure that we protect the people that already live here. Number two is you should know that there's 16 acres of parkland that's going to come to the village when this project is going to be complete. So that includes all of the riverfront will come back for the first time really ever that we've had that back, and in other parkland within the site itself. And alongside, to get your point about Kingsland, alongside of Kingsland on the north end of the project, there'll be what's called a buffer zone. So it'll look like more parkland. So there'll be this space, again, several acres, between the edge of Kingsland and the northernmost buildings on the new site. So I think it's going to have enough protection in that sense. What's key is how that gets built out and how that gets designed. And what I've been proposing to the developer is that we take our cues from Battery Park City, and there's some incredible parks there, or look at Storm King and other places to do something that's truly world class. Thank you.
To answer your question, how we make sure that this happens is with some kind of a master plan. Master plan is something that you've all been asking for a long time, and we haven't seen the beginnings of, really, here. We need to have an idea of what this is going to look like along the waterfront. In the absence of a master plan, I've taken some initiatives to try and see that the very things you're talking about, Kathy, come to fruition. The mayor has talked about a buffer zone, which is true, between Kingsland Park and the development, and he's laid out all of the things that are there, but he hasn't said how they're going to work together. I've brought people to the table already. We've had meetings with the county, the developer, Scenic Hudson, who has some fabulous ideas, and the village. Kingsland Park has an opportunity to become a jewel for our village once again. And the developer has an interest in that because it's going to be their backyard. They want that. So a master plan, working together, we can accomplish your goal.
Next question.
My name is Abraham Golub. I'm also 25 degrees. My question is for you. Sorry. We talk about development of the GM factory. I've been living here for 8 years. I've seen three businesses opening up in that time. I mean, people come here during Halloween, and then for hay rides, and they go have dinner in Terrytown. There is no money spent in Sleepy Hollow. So what is the plan? Are there any specifics to lower down cost, lower down taxes for businesses to do something so Beekman Avenue is a little bit more alive? I mean,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize there were two. That's okay. Actually, what happened was when the facade grant was completed and sunsetted, I looked at Beekman Avenue and I said, those three properties next to Fleetwood, like, why are they not being sold? So what I did was I put together a group of volunteers and professionals and village officials, and we started to look at what was going on at Beekman Avenue. We had somebody, and we broke it down to a mission statement of 4 tasks. One is marketing Sleepy Hollow, one was beautification, one was quality of life, and one was a master plan. We started working with the county, and we started to get statistics, and we started to get demographic information. We started also to look at the properties that were for sale, because a lot of properties are going off the tax rolls. As wonderful as social services are, there's only so much that a village can sustain until it tips the balance. So we had some major properties, the Union Building, those 3 properties, those 3 empty properties next to Fleetwood, the Holy Cross Building, and through our committee, the 3 properties next to Fleetwood, we facilitated the sale of those 3 properties. They will be developed. And I, along with 2 other committee members, we approached the developers of Hudson Harbor, and they have purchased the Union Building, and they will be doing fantastic things with the Union Building. So we were on a roll. We started to review all the zoning codes, and we started to work with the county to talk about how we can make our downtown more attractive to developers and what we need to do. Because once we stabilize it and we bring in a stronger tax base, because our taxable assessables, which is our tax base, have gone down almost $10 million since 2009. And I really think the mayor is responsible for being the cheerleader for our downtown. The mayor needs to work with commercial realtors, needs to work with developers, needs to institute private-public partnerships to really solidify our commercial district downtown. Thank you.
Thank you. I would look at the downtown revitalization effort so far and say to you, drive down Beekman Avenue and show me the effects, and show me show me what's changed. Empty storefront after empty storefront. I would also point out that the master plan, essentially for the last several years, has been General Motors and getting the site done. You can't really plan for anything else in this village unless you know that that's been taken care of. Until we knew that it was actually done, it makes it incredibly difficult to look at anything else, because that is going to affect everything else in this village. The UAW building was mentioned, as you all know, right at the bottom of Beekman Avenue, and I think we would all love to see it disappear. It's pretty ugly, and it's not serving a useful purpose right now. But my opponent, Karen, actually worked on a plan with the developer, unbeknownst to the rest of this board, and said, let's develop 96 units of housing on that site. Just to give you a sense of how big that is, the current development that's being done in Sleepy Hollow is 60 units, so a third larger. It would have endangered the sale of the General Motors plant at the time. The zoning doesn't allow it. I could go on and on and on. And it's a kind of shoot from the hip approach to let's fix this problem. I think we need a thoughtful, creative way of attacking our downtown. And primarily that's looking at parking issues and probably at tax incentives to get people to invest.
Next question.
This is directed to, to both sides. My name is Ted Sohn. I live on Farrington Avenue in Sleepy Hollow. I realize that the issue of that comes under the head of revitalization can come in conflict with the other goals of maintaining economic diversity and cultural diversity in the village. My guess is that a lot of our diversity currently depends on some substandard housing and lots of things like that. So I think it must be a very complex issue to address of how you address revitalization and still work toward maintaining the richness of our village, which depends partly on the ethnic and cultural and economic diversity. So my question to each side is specifically, how do you propose to address maintaining that diversity while going ahead with plans for revitalization?
That's a great question. Thank you for asking it. I've been in this village since I was a young boy. And as everyone knows here, our school district has over 50% of Hispanic kids, and our downtown, our inner village, is the majority are Hispanic families. Truth be told, there's no easy question to that. Developer's going to come in and either take properties over, but I think one of the things that you addressed about substandard housing, I think there's an initiative, there's a group right now that's run by one of the trustees called Safe Housing, and working with the building department to go into different homes to make sure that we're not having 25 people in a house living there with mattresses on the floor. I think one thing with our code enforcement, to be able to go into homes that create a hazard to neighbors and the inner village, and going there and correcting these problems by finding the landlords and also approaching people in the village that, look, we are concerned about, we want you to live in a safe home. It benefits everyone, not just your neighbors, everyone. If we have a safe housing program in our village, I think that's a good step into the direction of keeping people of different cultures in this village. I'll tell you right now, I go to a Spanish church. My first language is Spanish with my family, and it's important for me. And I think one of our biggest assets, as you said, is the diversity that we have in this village. I will tell you this much, if elected, I will definitely try my hardest to keep that diversity rich in our village, for sure.
You'll also have 2 minutes to respond. 2 minutes, because he asked the question to both.
Got it. First up, let me just say that there's 3 actually large housing developments in our downtown that are affordable housing and will stay that way due to the nature of the housing. So we have a core of affordable housing that's never going to go anywhere in the village. There's also a small component of affordable housing in the new development at Lighthouse Landing. It's the current ethnic or national breakdown of the village is one that is largely Hispanic now. Who knows what our village is going to look like in another 50 years? We have been an immigrant community for 125 years or longer. We've been a factory town. We've attracted people from all over the world. We're no longer dominant in Portuguese and Italian families. It's Dominican and Ecuadorian. And I think that's going to continue, and it's going to continue to change. What we need to do is, as we move forward, and as we move forward on planning for the future, we need to make sure that all of the communities in our village are included in those discussions. So as we meet with planners and engineers and traffic consultants and economic consultants and so on, to bring together the plan for the future, what we're going to do away from the riverfront, we need to make sure that we engage with each one of our communities in meaningful discussion about what is important to them.
Yes. Yeah, but the question was directed to both slates, so thank you.
Hi, I'm Joe Block. I live on Hemlock Drive in Sleepy Hollow. I believe a couple years ago, and I moved here 6 years ago, Ken and Bruce and Karen, you guys all ran on the same slate. And could Karen and Bruce, could you explain why we're at this juncture where you guys are no longer running together, what's going wrong, and why are we at this juncture?
Okay, do you want 1 minute each, or do you 2 minutes? 2 minutes.
Well, I think you saw a very good example of why we're at this juncture tonight from the mayor. When you don't have your own accomplishments, you steal the accomplishments of others. And if you don't have your own accomplishments, then you discredit others. Mr. Schrodel, the co-chair of the Unite Party's campaign, started this whole issue about the downtown revitalization by writing letters with false accusations to the New York State Attorney General's office, hoping for an investigation. It was looked into and it was dismissed. As far as the UAW building, that was a private property that was on sale. It was on the open market. Anybody could have come and purchased that property. So the idea that it would have had an impact on the special permit is laughable. And when I met with National Resources, I was shocked. I was shocked that they agreed to buy the building. That was the beginning and the end of our conversation. And as anybody here knows, and the mayor should know, any plan that the developer comes up with has to go in front of the planning board. So I could sit down and plan the Empire State Building with him. But as soon as he goes in front of Elliot Martone, you know how far that's going to go. So to sit here and to send out letters with scathing accusations trying to discredit me is why this board is no longer united. We need a leader who respects the work that we do. We are volunteers. I have volunteered hours and hours and hours of my time saving the post office, renovating Morris Park in time for the school opening for the first graders so that they would have a nice park. What else have I done? Contacting developers to deal with the sinkholes down at Ichabod's Landing to get a better answer than spending $2 million to fix them when we were bonding $5 million for a new water tank. This is why we are not united, because here we have Lighthouse Landing to be planned for, and if you look at the board's agenda, not one discussion about Lighthouse Landing with this board. The contract was closed in December. We're now in March. We're already behind the 8 ball when it comes to planning for this development.
The question was, why are we not running together, I believe. I made a decision this past late summer, early fall, as I was looking ahead and saying, do I want to run again as mayor? Answering that question to myself and saying yes, and working with folks that I supported and trusted. and was a longtime member of the Democratic Party. I continue to be a member of the Democratic Party. And within the local party apparatus, I said, hey, with the elections coming up, and I think what we should do to be more inclusive in our community is to have a primary, not a caucus, as we've done before. The local committee, which is about 15 people, said no. We don't think we should do that. We want to keep it the way it is, and let's have a caucus again, meet on Saturday like we've done in the past. And I thought that was not an appropriate way to choose the government. The last two elections that we've had, there was only a caucus and there was no general election. And I thought the village deserved more and better. And that we should also reach out and include people from other parties or people with no party affiliation. So in November, middle of November, I met with a bunch of folks that I trusted, and we decided that I would not run, and Glenn would not run for re-election, even though he's a Democrat, on the Democratic line. And in early December, we decided not to do this. And when the caucus finally did occur in this building several weeks later, I was really proud that we were not here, that we didn't participate in things like asking photo IDs for some of the people coming in, but not all of the folks. Again, a problem that I saw throughout. So I decided not to run as a Democrat, not to run on the Democratic line, because I think those national party affiliations do not matter on the local level.
Next question.
Hi, my name is Jeff Linder and I live in Phillips Manor. So I don't think it's any new knowledge that a really key aspect of a leader is the ability to attract the talent that's really required for the job. So my question is directed to Karen and Ken. The question is, if elected to mayor, who would you seek to appoint as village attorney?
Okay, so each of the candidates will have 2 minutes to respond to your question.
Well, if Ms. Gandolfo would like to continue on as village attorney, if I am elected mayor, I'd be proud and honored to have her serve as my village attorney. If there has ever been any question about her integrity and the fact that she has served this village loyally and honorably, then I don't know why she is still our attorney general, our village attorney. The village attorney is an appointment made by the mayor. If he ever had any doubt that there was conflicts of interest, I would think that he would have a conversation with the board and that he would ask for her resignation. He has not done so. Everybody here, all the trustees here, Trustee Hanselman, Trustee Stupel, Trustee Bruce, we all stand behind Ms. Gandolfo. She has been loyal, and I have to say something to you people. You are very lucky to have had her for the last 6 years as our village attorney. She knows this village inside and out. She is an eagle when it comes to law, and I think she's done a lot for us. And I think she has counseled this mayor very well when it comes to the Lighthouse Landing negotiations, when it comes to the water tank negotiations, and when it comes to protecting this village. Thank you.
I will not be reappointing Ms. Gandolfo as the village attorney. I think it's time that we looked outside of the village. I think it's time that we looked at some of the other talent that's out there, and there's a bunch of incredible lawyers. I know that always sounds kind of odd to all of us who are not lawyers, but there are a bunch of really talented folks out there, and I think it's time that we moved ourselves a little bit away from someone who has such a history in the village. And that we get somebody who doesn't live here, who's going to come in and focus solely on the legal aspects of what this village needs. And that's what I'll do if elected. Thank you.
Yes, gentleman over here. That's you. It's coming.
Oh, thank you. My name is Pat Monroe. I live in Weber Park on New Broadway. My question is, as a previous administration did back in the 90s when they were considering redeveloping the General Motors property, they gave out a questionnaire to everybody in the village in both languages. And the questionnaire asked people who live here, regardless of income and neighborhood, what do you think the village needs to have in the new part of our village? So the question is, do you think, mayoral candidates or any of you trustees, that it might be a good idea to repeat that process, develop a very carefully, simply worded questionnaire for every resident, every address in the village, to give you their ideas about what they think the waterfront future of our village should be.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. We're going to do a little tag team on our end. So give me a nod when I'm at about a minute, okay? Thanks. Pat, I would answer that by saying that I think a survey like that would be terribly interesting for the village, but not for the waterfront, because it's so much of that is already in the master plan for the waterfront, which is essentially the special permit. It says how much land is going to be set aside and what the uses will be for that land. So that's set. You can't come back and say, I would like to do something other than that with that land. However, in the rest of the village, on either side, well, not that side, but this side of this building and this neighborhood, and to see what people thought should be done there with the traffic issues and other things, I think that would be terribly useful as we go forward to plan. And I'll ask John to.
Pat, I think that's a great question, and it brings up some interesting points about how the village is represented. I think if everybody in the village has a questionnaire like that and is able to have communication with the trustees and the mayor, I think it's a wonderful thing. As the mayor indicated, there are parts of it, of a plan that, you know, are kind of already in the works and set. But on other issues like parking, I agree with the mayor. I think that's a really good idea to have everybody represented. That's what it should be.
Yeah, actually, you know, the SunCal developer, since he's from California, hangs out a lot in Sleepy Hollow and has a lot of time on his hands. So he's always popping into Village Hall, and he's looking forward to nothing more than getting information from us and knowing what we want to do and meeting with the county and getting a waterfront advisory committee together, getting a bridge committee together, which we've all been waiting for the mayor to make appointments to those committees so that the developer can meet with them and move on. So again, as I said, I think that there are a lot of things that need to be brought to the table. We need to be having discussions, not just amongst ourselves, but with neighboring municipalities who will be impacted by this. We should have really already had a project team in place, and we should be having all these discussions already. Thank you.
She took exactly what I was going to say. No. Pat, I think that's a fabulous idea. My answer to you is yes. That kind of thing should be done. I was going to say what Karen said, that there are things, there are ways, the developer, there are things in the special permit that require things. There's a bridge committee that's supposed to be formed, and it hasn't been. And that's the first thing that the developer is going to do, is build a big bridge on Beekman Avenue. It hasn't been formed. There are ways that we can reach out to the community, and certainly can, certainly should, and will.
I just want to say that in some of the hotels that we developed when I was at Intercontinental Hotels, we did just this, and we sent out questionnaires for people in a lot of different countries, a lot of different cities. And let me tell you, we got some wonderful ideas, but it is not for the faint-hearted. I mean, you just would not believe how many ideas you get. So be prepared.
Okay, just want to make an announcement. Someone is illegally parked. They have a Volvo S80, license plate HMJ9482. So you may want to go move your car. It's a Volvo S80. Okay, so, no. Okay, so in terms of questions, we still have approximately 1 hour for the full debate, and we're going to wrap up a little soon to take final remarks, but we still have a lot of time for questions. And I want to have a question from folks in the Manors, and then we'll open it up to questions in the rest of the community.
Good evening. I'm Richard Plano. I live on Harwood Avenue in Phillips Manor. The question is for the mayor, Ken. I said I would bring the wine, so I'm going to whine about taxes. I have heard from people over the decades that there's a lot of overspending in the village, especially on overtime. And I was wondering if you could comment on that and talk about what the mayor and the board can do to oversee spending.
Thank you. The quick hit on overtime, biggest part of it for us this year has been in our police department. And where our police department has about 25 folks in it, and we've had 6 people out for big parts of the year on disability or illness or different health-related things. So as you can imagine, that's really killed us. And that's not something you can do an awful lot about. We have worked hard to get people to come back, and we're starting to see that actually drop, according to the chief of police. On the budget side of it, I can actually tell you some, I think, fairly good news. And that is, unlike what was said earlier, our tax base isn't decreasing, it's actually going up. General Motors is gone, Lighthouse Landing is here, and they're paying taxes starting in December this past year. We're expecting to see a rather significant increase in our revenue next year because of that. As you know, from the budget process, the first part of it is something called the mayor's budget. It's a draft budget that gets released, and then the board reacts to that. We debate back and forth, and we adopt the final budget before the end of April. I'm planning on releasing that draft budget, the mayor's budget, in the next week or so, and the preliminary look at it is one that's very, very strong. We can keep all of our spending essentially the same, cover all the increases in pensions and health insurance and other insurances, supply increases, and all of that kind of thing. We can add another police officer position. We can add another DPW position. We can add some people that we desperately need in our administrative offices, as well as put money into the services that we're going to need to do our new master plan, and we're going to be able to cut taxes to do that. Cut taxes for real.
You know, I'd like to say it wasn't the mayor who saved GM. I think it was GM who saved the mayor. What can we do? Think about it. $1.4 million in owed taxes to the village. 6 years. 6 years it was never reported to the board. It was found out by accident because Ms. Dupel, in her safe housing initiative, requested a report for taxes in a year's. I'd be embarrassed to say it's the first tax lien sale in 10 years. We have a reserve fund went down to $212,000. That is nothing for a village of this size. We borrow money from our reserve fund. We borrowed money to make our pension contributions one year to New York State. Meanwhile, $600,000 in overtime for police officers. If I look here at the overtime for the DPW, the percentage that we're at now with 3 months left to the year, 123%, 173%, 149%. We get monthly reports from our department heads. They talk about fire hydrants. They talk about snow. I want to get statistics. I want to get finances. I want to hear about staffing issues. I want to know why we have 6 police officers out on disability and none of our neighboring municipalities have any. We need to hold the department heads' feet to the fire to report and let us be the overseers of the financial status of this village.
Next question.
Hi, my name is Michelle Gonzalez. I'm from Sleepy Hollow Manor. I apologize if this was addressed earlier. I left. The Superfund site that we had in Sleepy Hollow, what was the outcome of that? with the mercury. And did the village have to pay anything? Do we have to pay anything? Where do we stand with that?
Who are you directing the question to?
Both parties.
Thanks. Just a quick note, if you take a look at the village just completed audit, which is on the website, you'll see what the fund balance actually is, which is rather substantial. It also happened on my watch, so hey. The Mallory plant, which you're referring to, which was actually right here, the place that the first Duracell batteries were actually created and made was right next door to us. That plant closed, the building was torn down, the area was cleaned up. We got the property, eventually got the property that's now part of Barnhart Park with their old parking lot, and expanded the park. Unfortunately, two things happened. Around just a couple of years after the turn of the century, the village acquired this land from Procter & Gamble, who owned Duracell. And unfortunately, the village agreed that in exchange for a payment of $600,000 that we would indemnify them if there were any future problems with the site. The other unfortunate thing that happened was the standards, unfortunate for us, good for the health of our communities, was the standards on the mercury that was in the soil here were much stronger than they used to be. So what used to be clean was suddenly very dirty. There's been a cleanup effort underway for the last couple of years. It's going to continue for another year at least. They're literally digging up the yard of every single household within a certain circumference of the site, and then bringing in new soil and new plants and so on. That we're estimating the cost is going to be somewhere close to $6 million. The village could potentially be on the hook for that amount of money. It's why when we knew we were going to acquire the east parcel that we knew also had contamination, that we created a local development corporation to insulate us in part from that. So sorry for the bad news.
I'm sorry, I kind of got lost in all the data. Yeah, sure. You can have a chance.
Okay. Okay, let me just quickly answer your question, Michelle. The answer is we don't know yet what this, I think if you take what the mayor says, we don't know yet what the village's liability is going to be for that. Everything I think that the mayor says is fact, it's out there. It's still an open question. I think most of the cleanup has been done, but there is still some to be done, but yeah, there's that. Let me take a little bit of time then to mention that a couple of other things that were mentioned before, since that's, someone asked why we're not united. What happened with that? Well, just consider this. 6 years ago when the mayor was first elected, I supported him wholeheartedly. So did Karen. So did many of us. In the 6 years since, he has lost the support of his board. A CEO's dream. I've got everybody behind me. I can do whatever. I got the policies. We support him completely. But the divisiveness has caused him to lose his support. He formed a party because he knew he wouldn't get the Democratic nomination.
Okay, we're going to be opening it up to residents of the entire village. We have a question over here first, and then I'll take yours next, okay?
Thank you. Hi, everybody, neighbors. My name is David Hodgson, now 287 North Washington over there, right around the corner. I recognize most of you here from my volunteer activities, and I recognize how much work being on the board is, John and Denise. Guys, I know there's a lot of time invested. People have personal stake in this village. People love this village. There's been several efforts over the years to bring in more volunteers. We have volunteer fire department, we have volunteer ambulance corps. We have a lot of things that could make this village a better place. Over the years, we had the Waterfront Advisory Committee. We had a communications committee that I served on. And we really need to find out, we have the Downtown Revitalization Committee, all these committees have been evaporated, closed, canceled. Please describe for us both sides what you would do to encourage volunteerism, neighborliness, togetherness, politeness, community. Thank you. And ideally, it would be the new people.
Thanks for the question. One of the things that we want to do is invite residents to participate in the governing process. We are inclusive. And Ken mentioned the LDC, the Local Development Corporation, which is essentially designed to be the real estate development arm for the village. It's an incredibly important responsibility because they have taken title of the East Parcel, which is part of the General Motors sale, which comes to the village, close to 45 acres. And it was important for us to look at our community and recognize that there are incredibly talented people who live here, world-class talent as it relates to real estate development, engineering, architecture, folks who run construction companies, who are in investment banking, who love this village as much as we all do, and would love to make a contribution towards the future growth of Sleepy Hollow. So we had many conversations on the board. It was Ken's position, my position, to go out and offer these opportunities to qualified individuals who live here, our neighbors, et cetera. And our opposition didn't think it was a good idea. Why? They felt like they were giving up too much control, that how could we make them accountable, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we had to set up the LDC in time to take title of the East Parcel, which we did in December. And the only way to set up the LDC was to give in to the majority, which is the way democracy works. And they decided that the board of the LDC would have to be the board of trustees in the village, which doesn't make any sense really because number one, we have plenty to do. Number two, we don't have the expertise that some of you all have. And I thought it was a very, very big mistake.
Yeah, let's talk about the LDC. I don't know which meetings Glenn was at that I must have missed, but if you, again, I mean, all you have to do is go to our website and look at the agendas that are right there online, and never once, maybe once, there was a discussion about the LDC. It's the mayor's responsibility to make appointments to boards. He didn't bring any names to us, maybe because he didn't want any names for us to bring any names to the table. I think the issue of control here is one that the mayor was having as far as who he wanted to appoint to this board. And the truth of it is, for 2 years we've been talking about an LDC, and then at the 11th hour it defaults that the Board of Trustees becomes the board of the LDC. And there's nothing less that I would want to have control over. I spend enough time as a village trustee, and now I'm in a position where I have to meet with the MTA to talk about side rails on the East Parcel, and I'm meeting with our nonprofit attorney to talk about fee schedules for being the vehicle for tax-free exempt bonding or borrowing, and I'm talking, about all this fascinating stuff. But I think, as Mr. Rosenblum said, that this task is much better handled in hands that are much more capable and much more experienced than mine. And I look forward to the day when we can have a conversation about putting people with the experience and the knowledge so that they can serve this village well and do the correct thing on the LDC board. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're going to give each one a 30-second rebuttal on this, okay? And we want to hear from one of the other candidates.
I just want to talk about world-class talent because there's a lot of people in this room who have world-class talent, but there's one sitting right here in the front row. Greg Lobato, a decorated war veteran, a man who came back from being a war veteran and achieved greatness. He got a master's degree in business. He's gainfully employed. He lives in the village, grew up in the village. He wanted to make a difference. He wanted to become a police officer in this village. These two men agreed with him. Two people on this side did not. I'd like to know what they think about that. I think it was a travesty. And that's why a lot of us are getting involved in local politics today. I think that's 30 seconds, right?
Okay, you have 30 seconds to answer the question that David put on the table.
I'm just going to give a 30-second answer. I don't think we need to encourage it so much, because when I looked for a committee, I had people on my committee like this. I had Krista Madsen, I had Sandra Spiro, I had a number of people from the village, and I apologize for Dorothy Hanselman. They were all around the table. I think you just need to ask. And I think if you look, we don't have an ARB, we don't have a WAC, we don't have a bridge committee. I think somebody is just not reaching out and asking people to volunteer. And I don't know if it's because of, I don't know, lack of interest or not being available, or I don't know. You'll have to answer that question yourself. But certainly, I know that there are a lot of people here who have come to me and have said, if you need me, and I have put names out. I provided names for a bridge committee, and it was never responded to. And I stopped giving names because I knew that they wouldn't be entertained. So. Sorry, did you want?
Okay, Francois, you had a question? Okay. Yes, right.
Hi. Oh, that was really loud. Okay. Tracy Brown. I live on Evergreen Way. I'd like to know more about our volunteer ambulance corps. You know, we had a conversation a while ago after there was this tragedy in one of the marathons about getting full-time response so we could have quicker response. So has progress been made on that, and what are the plans?
Can you just tell us who you're directing the question to?
Oh, well, you know, I'd love to hear from the new folks, but I don't know if they know those details. So I guess whoever's most qualified.
Yeah, that's a real good question. The ambulance corps certainly is really important to our village. There's no question. It's an essential service that we have to maintain. It's struggling. It struggles to get volunteers. There's a real question as to whether in this day and age we can staff it with volunteers. We, in fact, have not totally staffed it with volunteers. We have an EMT that we're paying for. During the daytime hours when people work, it's really hard to find volunteers. The real question is whether or not the volunteer model is one that can go forward into the future. I'm part of a committee. Trustee Lobato Church is on the committee, as well as Trustee Handelman. And we've had some discussions with our ambulance folks. They got together with some of the folks from Terrytown's ambulance corps. What a novel idea that is, right? And we're trying to find a model that will work for our ambulance corps in the future. So that is definitely on the table and is definitely being worked at, and it's a prime importance, I think.
I think that's a great question. That's one of the first things I want to do. I have a background, obviously, in emergency response. I worked in the FDNY. I worked with ambulances in the fire department. I responded to people's houses. I was part of the matrix. When I look at some of the numbers that we have on our corps responding to Kendall and other parts of the village, they're pretty bad. I'm going to be honest with you. If I was a trustee, as long as Bruce and Karen, I think I would have done something about it before today. So that's one of the first priorities I have, is taking a look at that. And I've explained that to the people up at Kendall. I think it's a half paid, half volunteer system. I do agree with Bruce. It probably needs to be all paid. I know if I dial 911, which I did for my wife about a month ago, it took about 13 minutes to get to my house. And I know from experience that's not a good number. In New York City, it's about 4.5 minutes. So that's one of the things that I think Ken Ray has asked me to run with him for. Experience and real-world experience and expertise in emergency responding, not only with the ambulance, but also with the fire department, which is a total volunteer system. And there's going to be a new firehouse built, there's going to be new equipment purchased, and there's a lot of equipment that goes into these trucks. I know the equipment, I have experience, and I have people I know who can help me get things done. and they're going to volunteer. I'm not going to pay them. Thank you.
Okay, we have time for one or two more questions, and then we're going to be going to closing remarks. So we'd like to give the floor to somebody else. You already asked the question, sir. The lady right over here raising her hand.
Do I have to stand up? No. Hi, my name is Ina Hamilton. I live in Phillips Manor. My question's to Ken and Karen. It's my understanding that if Ken is reelected mayor, Karen keeps her trustee seat. Have you guys thought about, and ladies, thought about how you're going to work together next year if that happens?
Who would you like to respond to? Ken and Karen? Okay.
I mean, my responsibility is to this community, and I take it very seriously. You know, we started some excellent work. Unfortunately, we were stifled a little bit because of the mayor's directive to the village officials that they could no longer work with me because of letters written to the New York State Attorney General by his co-chair. But I think we were really getting some good momentum with our committee. We put together a marketing package. We, as I said, we've sold a couple of properties, and I really look forward to continue doing my work. And yeah, I mean, once this, you know, whoever wins, you know, the purpose is to serve the village, and I think that's why we're all here, and that's what we all want. And even though we're running against each other, I think we will all end up working together for the village, as we have in the past.
Thanks. Yes, I have thought about it quite a bit, and I think there's been several examples of what it's like to work together or try to work together, and just in this debate tonight. There's been a lot of questions about what happened in the past, and a lot of it's factual and pretty straightforward. And I would invite you all to just go to the village website and take a look at the meetings. They're all there, and you can stream them. And if you do, you'll see that a lot of them are quite contentious. I've been accused of not doing a whole bunch of things, but Karen represents the majority on the board. And you should all know, and I'm sure most of you do know, that the board has 7 people. You need 4 votes to make something happen. It doesn't matter what the mayor's vote is. The mayor must vote if there's a tie, but you need 4 votes, and she's had 4 votes. So every time she says, I couldn't get this done, I couldn't get this done, I couldn't get this done, it's like you have the majority already. How can you say you couldn't get it done? I don't look forward to repeating that. I think it's incredibly important that if you support the work that I've done, and that if you support the approach that I've taken and that I will continue to take, that you support everyone that I'm running with so that I have a majority on the board so we can actually make things happen, so we can move forward and we can stop what has been a bickering, divisive, waste of time and incredible frustration, I think, for all of us.
We're going to take one final question from Mr. West, and then, oh, we got a question in the back? One here, and then... Okay, and then we'll take yours last, James.
Good evening. Frank Acapini, 194 Weber Avenue. I don't know if you've discussed this at all tonight, but I'd like to know, the question's for everyone, but I'll stick it with the mayor and to Karen. I'd like to know what your vision is for Beekman Avenue. I mean, we're all talking about General Motors. Okay, now, whether you discussed this or not tonight, I don't know, I just walked in, but I would like to get a clear answer because, you know what, the whole board, a couple of you there have been there for 4 or 5 years, and nothing has really happened. So what's your vision for Beekman Avenue?
Ken, we'll start with you this time.
Sure. Thank you. Mine is that we pull together the merchants that live on Beekman, that work and own businesses and conduct business on Beekman and Valley Street and Cortlandt Street and the Chamber of Commerce together with residents in the community and say, okay, we want to go forward and we have some ideas about what we think might work. I have some ideas about what I think might work. I don't know if they'll work or not. For example, putting in parking on Chestnut behind Beekman, that would be parking for both residents and for retail businesses on Beekman, and have a place where you could travel back and forth through there. I think it's a cool idea. We'd have to test that. But before we do that, we need to make sure that the people that have already invested in our community, that already have businesses, that are already living in the community, what do they think? What do they think we should be doing to assist them in revitalizing our downtown? Because I would agree, it's been a failure. You go down Beekman right now and you look at it and you can't point out to where the successes are.
Thank you. Well, what we already started doing last year was, as I keep referring to, is we've put together a committee and we started to look at vehicles that we could use. And we brought in developers and they looked at a map of our downtown and they said, really what you need to do is, if you can get a couple of properties where you could get them revitalized or restored, you know, they pointed actually to some properties on Andrews Lane and what have you, and if you put up a new building where you could bring in, you know, a new, you know, maybe younger professional people to live. And I think we've actually accomplished that by selling the empty properties next to Fleetwood and the Union Building, because that's exactly what they plan to do. So then what you do is you're bringing in a clientele that will actually patronize services, because you need to start getting, and so what you do is it kind of has a domino effect. You put something down, you know, the western end, you put something on the eastern end, and then, you know, retailers will start to say, well, hey, you know, we have some people here that we can perhaps will become our customers and will, you know, will come to our shops, and it'll encourage them to come in and start filling up some of those vacant stores. The other thing that I've been looking at is something called a TIF. It's tax incremental financing. It's a vehicle where if somebody comes in and purchases a building, like let's say it's assessed at $500,000 and your taxes are $20,000 a year. If you restore the building and your assessment goes up, your taxes are going to go up. And that's one of the major things that is stopping people from coming to Sleepy Hollow, because when they do the math, after the restoration and the costs and everything else, the taxes, it just doesn't work for them. So if you can do something like a TIF, what they do is the money that you put, or the difference between your old taxes and the new taxes can go back into paying to finance the restoration that you did until you pay back the debt for the revitalization. So we're not losing any taxes. And then once the construction costs are covered and whatever, then the person starts paying the new taxes. So it's just a way to attract people who right now maybe can't afford to make the investment. And there are lots of things like that. And we've been working with the county and their officials to get more familiar with this stuff.
What's the question, sir? Okay, so I'm just going to ask you to take that up with them offline because it's not a question. So we have one final question. Okay. Okay. So, okay, we're going to leave this to two final questions, and then we're going to go to final remarks. Jim?
James West, Evergreen Way, Sleepy Hollow Manor. I have a question for Ken. Karen mentioned taxes owed to the village, and recently there was an auction and you recovered some money, but there was, I think, over 1 million owed to the village. I was wondering, how did that number get so high, and how can you prevent that going forward? You know, can we reclaim those taxes?
The village had, as has been said earlier, has not had a tax lien sale for quite some time, and unlike other villages in around us. And what we're going to do to change that is have a tax lien sale every year. So we'll have another one this year. So the change will be that it'll become a regular part of what we do. One of the reasons that the tax lien sale didn't seek to recover everything that was owed to the village is that the records in Village Hall, going back for some of the older ones, were not that good. So the tax lien sale that we did last year for the first time was done based on what are the good ones, the clean ones, and we know the ones that are going to fly through. We're not going to have some problem with those property owners. So that was kind of creaming or picking the low-hanging fruit and getting those and capturing them. And that was good for the village. And as a practice, it is something that we'll continue to, and we will move forward on that as we go forward. I do want to give credit where credit is due. There was work done to vet the lists and to see what was there as this tax lien sale came up as an idea, as something that the village should be adopting like our neighbors. And then it kind of died on the vine. And it wasn't until Glenn Rosenblum became a trustee who said, what is going on with this? And he pushed and put, you know, this is like our meetings, unfortunately. Well, you can't get a sentence out without being interrupted. And until he pushed and pushed the rest of us to go through and make that happen. So without his making that, the rest of us pay attention and making it go forward, it wouldn't have been there. So it's also been something that he's pushed to make us make sure that we continue to do it this year and every year from here on out. And I hope future boards will continue that practice.
1 minute rebuttal.
Yeah, basically, I mean, personally, I think it was awful supervision that the treasurer was allowed to be sitting on a $1.4 million receivable for so many years. I mean, if I would have done that, I worked in patient accounting, and if I would have gone to my director and he would have seen that I was sitting on a $1.4 million receivable and was doing nothing about it or to collect it, I think my job would have been on the line. But there was no accountability. And I think that's one of the problems that we have. We really, as overseers, I mean, it's our responsibility by New York State law to be the overseer of our finances in the village. And I think we really need to put strict reporting structures in place. We need to see where our revenues are coming, and if they are coming, we need to see where our expenses are at. We need to constantly be monitoring our budget. And here as a board, we keep asking and asking and asking for reports, and we really don't get them. And I think, and really, you know, the staff takes their direction from the mayor. And I think the mayor needs to set the standard.
Okay, Dan, do you still have a question? Okay, I'm just going to make one additional note. Okay, we're going to take Dan, and then after Dan's question, I have to take Mario's question. Okay? Okay, so, but Mario's got the final question, okay, guys? All right, Dan.
So I get to ask the question and then time you on the question. And this will be for both, so I can just do 2 minutes and my thumbs some work. What is your position on sharing services between the village of Sleepy Hollow and the village of Tarrytown? And not just the DPW, which we're talking about, but additional services as well.
And Dan, who is the question directed
It's to both, so anyone who would like to go first.
Okay, to both slates.
Any member, any side. Yep.
Shared services are really important. They may be key to going forward and having success with our villages in the future. I've always thought that you begin small and then you grow, and things sort of build momentum. You start by trying to merge recreation departments, which I've been working on with Glenn, and having meetings with Tarrytown about that. Our fields the kids don't know whether they're in Tarrytown, whether they're in Sleepy Hollow when they go and play. It doesn't make any sense that there's 2 of these. And you could go through the list. It doesn't make sense that there are 2 DPWs, or, you know, you go out on St. Patrick's Day is coming up, see how many fire engines from both of our villages you see going down the street, an awful lot of them. Could we gain efficiencies by shared services? I think absolutely we can. I've tried to put forward several initiatives. A couple of them, I tried to put forward an initiative in communications between various villages. The mayor shot that down. The budget was killed on that. I think everybody believes in shared services. It's a question of moving forward and really getting the support to do it. When I'm at meetings with, Glenn and I are at meetings on merging our recreation departments, I know Mayor Fixell has been at every meeting. The mayor has not been at any. In fact, maybe he's asked Glenn, he hasn't asked me how they're going. So that's one of my frustrations. And I think at that level, what you need is you need a mayor who will come beside you. When you're going to the county, you need a mayor who will come and say, I'm with you and I'm supporting you. And it's easier to take a phone call from the mayor than from a trustee. So you need that kind of support if you're going to, an initiative that a trustee begins is going to be successful. So I hope we have more of that going forward.
So we are making great progress with Tarrytown right now. We have an agreement in principle with them on how to move forward. All that's missing is approval from the unions and civil service. That's not a small matter, but you should know that we have a relationship with Tarrytown that's very strong right now. I think it's based on the people who are doing the negotiating. And I think that this is doable. We're going to need some help from some of our state government officials who are willing to jump in and see if they can't unravel some of the civil service issues primarily. And so then the expectation would be, okay, what do we do next? Clearly there's an opportunity with DPW, there's an opportunity with police, there's an opportunity with emergency medical care, but we shouldn't just look at Tarrytown. We have opportunities with Ossining, we have opportunities with Mount Pleasant, we have opportunities potentially with Briarcliff Manor. So all that's available to us. It is the way to go in terms of the future iteration of local government. You know, we have 56 different villages in Westchester County, all with their own police chief. So there's a tremendous amount of inefficiency here. I grew up in New York City. There were 9 million people when I was a kid in Queens. We had one police department, and it functioned very, very well. Obviously, we had different precincts, et cetera. So it's got to be a priority. It's very, very doable, and I think you're going to see much more of that in the next couple of years. In addition to the trustees, the mayor's playing a role. There's no question about that. But he doesn't need to be at every single meeting. You're going to be voting in a board of trustees. There are 6 of us. We shouldn't have 6 or 7 people at every single meeting. We're more than capable of making phone calls and getting return phone calls and doing business with our neighboring villages. So you should look at the entire board here, not just the mayor. Thank you.
Mario, final question.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Mario Belanich, and I'm not running for office, so don't clap me. Okay, I got the question, 2 questions, and this is for Karen only. Number 1 is talking about the mayor, respect the office of the mayor, and working with the mayor. I'm not going to say my opinion. How can you respect the mayor and you and your partner walk out from the meeting? That's one. You
Okay,
have to answer now.
Mario, you're making comments now. So
All right, I got one more.
Okay.
One more. And another thing is...
So how can Karen work with the mayor? What's the next question?
How can she work with the mayor by walking out from the meeting?
Okay.
Okay, that's one.
Thank you.
I got one more. I got to say 2. And another one, when came out to vote for policeman, I understand that she didn't interview the policeman that was hiring, but end up voting no. So how can you vote no by not interviewing? So there's a little bit conflict to me, if it's all this true. Thank you.
Okay, Karen.
See how fast?
I don't know if any of you had the pleasure of seeing that meeting. It was a board meeting, and we had all of our village business was completed. The resolutions had been voted for, and then one of the other trustees proceeded to go into a tirade and verbally abuse me. And it wasn't the first time it happened, and it probably won't be the last time. And we're all volunteers here. And I think if somebody has a personal issue and is upset with me, that's fine, but I think that could be discussed offline. Or I think it's up to the mayor to put an end to somebody screaming at somebody on the dais and say, let's talk about this offline. But that wasn't done. And I asked the mayor several times to please control the trustee, to please calm her down, to please ask her to stop. And instead, the gavel was hit that I was interrupting the trustee who was verbally abusing me. I don't think we're there to be abused. I don't think we're there to be yelled at. I think we're there to do village business. And my village business was done for the night, and I got up and I left. So I don't come here to be screamed at. You know, I'm an adult, and I'm a professional, and I've never done anything like that to any other trustee on the board, and I don't expect it to be done to me. Your second question? Should I answer both? Do I get 4 minutes to answer 2 questions? Oh, it's always been practice that the interview committee makes the recommendation, and if the majority of the interview committee decides for or against a trustee, that's how we've always voted. And this was an anomaly. We've never, ever, ever put a resolution forward to hire somebody unless we knew that the entire board was in agreement. And I think that there were all the wrong reasons that it was done. So, thank you.
I have to say, I don't think we're volunteers. I think we're public servants. And we should take that role very, very seriously. And if you are elected by the residents in the village, you should be at every meeting that you can be in, and you should never walk out. This was not just a one-way tirade. This was a two-way tirade, trust me. And if there was some more mature thinking in place, it would have been very easy to have a civil discourse and to move forward as a cohesive board as opposed to just getting up and leaving the meeting, which is insulting to the board, it's insulting to the residents, and that's not the type of leadership that you want. Trust me, there are a lot of difficult things that come up in meetings. There are times that you disagree, and that's fine. Civil debate is very, very good. But once you make the decision to move on, you move on. There's no more ego trips involved. There's no more trying to play one-upmanship. That's not the kind of board that you deserve. You deserve people who are going to listen and vote accordingly and take care of village business without making it personal. Thank you.
Okay, we're coming to final remarks now. And the order that we're going to have is the trustees, the folks who are running for the trustee roles, they're going to be presenting they'll have 1 minute to give a closing remark. And then the candidates for mayor will have 1 minute to give their closing remarks. And we're going to go in the same order that we went before. We're going to start with Bruce.
Don't go. Where are you going? Is my time started? Wait. Okay, all right. Okay. My name is Bruce Campbell. I've been a trustee for 3 terms. I ask for your vote to return me to office. I think I can contribute a lot to the board. I think I have contributed a lot to the village. It's a village that I love, and I expect to do everything that I can to make it an even better place to be. I believe that we represent the true unity party for the village of Sleepy Hollow. The members of our party represent all areas of the village. All 4 areas of the village are represented by our ticket. We have a variety of skills. Jose represents an area of the village that is often underrepresented. Mary brings extraordinary business skills. I think I bring the leadership and the experience behind. And take a look at Karen. Is the developer going to get past her? I mean, I ask you, she's a spitfire here. I think we have the team in place that can do well for the village in the future. That's really all I have to say. I humbly ask for your vote. It's been a pleasure to serve you thus far, and I ask you to let me continue.
Jose?
Once again, Manor Associations, I want to thank you for this opportunity to be able to express ourselves and what we feel what's important to us. One thing we all have in common here is Sleepy Hollow is our home, and we want the best for our village. I have been a resident here. I live in the inner village, so do I have a vested interest in Beekman Avenue improving? Absolutely. And this is one of the things that I'm going to work toward, to be able to work with it. Whoever is in office, I'm hoping that it's our ticket. The other thing that I also is, I'd like to be a bridge to the cultural diversity in our village, which I think was one of the strongest things that we have. I mean, where else in 2.2 square miles, do we have people with great affluence as well as the working poor of our community? I think we all live in harmony, and I think I will work toward keeping that harmony in our village in the future. Thank you.
I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. I appreciate all the interest in what's going on. I'm your neighbor. I have a large investment. Probably the biggest investment I have is in my home. And I'm there with my wife and my 2 teenage children. I'm concerned about our taxes. I'm concerned about our staffing in our police force. I'm concerned about our ambulance force. I'm concerned about Lighthouse Landing. But I don't want to come back here in 2 years and be pointing fingers if I do get elected. I want to do something. That's the type of person I am. A lot I'm hearing tonight from over here is finger pointing. It was almost like they weren't on the board of trustees. Well, they were. It's not all about Ken Ray. He delegates. And if you're uncomfortable that the mayor's not in a meeting with you, maybe you shouldn't be a trustee. That's really how I feel. I have leadership skills. I will use them. Please elect me and unite Sleepy Hollow.
I'm going to be wonderfully uncontroversial. When people ask me where I live, I say I live in Sleepy Hollow, which is Westchester with a soul. I say this because we have so many attributes of living in Westchester. We're near New York, we have natural beauty, we have great architecture, we have terrific houses. I could go on and on. But we also have this vibrant, diverse culture that makes this village real. This isn't Scarsdale or Rye, and I think that's just fine with all of us. That's why we live here. But maintaining that balance is going to be tricky. Taking advantage of the huge progress of Lighthouse Landing will bring, while retaining our small town village, is really going to be what we have to work on. That's their huge challenge. And to do that, I think we really need to hire the A-team. I think we need people on the board who get it, who can work with tough negotiators, and who know how to listen to you and represent you clearly and successfully. God knows I've been in the trenches in business, and I've really fought for the people that I represented. And I would be really happy and proud to represent all of you as we try to make Sleepy Hollow better. Thank you.
This is an incredibly exciting time for Sleepy Hollow. With Mayor Ray leading the way, the Lighthouse Landing project is a reality, and our concerns about our current and future water supply are a thing of the past. The project must be managed in a way that has a positive impact on our quality of life and protects what makes Sleepy Hollow so special, including our small village sensibility, diversity, and the natural beauty that surrounds us. That responsibility will primarily be in the hands of your next Board of Trustees, which we hope will include the entire Unite Sleepy Hollow team. We offer a wide range of professional experience, a work ethic that produces smart and informed decisions, as well as the temperament and demeanor to overcome differences of opinion that all functional boards require. Thank you for considering the Unite Sleepy Hollow team, and we ask for your vote on Wednesday. Thank you.
All of us here are willing to put in the time to serve our village and make it a better place. As my children get older and are moving up to the upper grades in school, there is less of a need for me to be active in the schools. So now it is time for me to focus on the environment in which they live and making where they are raised a better place. I'm a mom and a neighbor who shares the same concerns as all of you. If I am elected a trustee, I will bring cohesiveness and a temperament to the board. I will make decisions using common sense and thoughtful consideration, hearing out different opinions and options. As a working mom, I've juggled a lot of priorities in efficient and effective ways. I have pursued administrative work because I am organized, a clear thinker, and decisive, all qualities that make a good trustee and all qualities that I can bring to the board. I am new to this. I may not have had much of an opportunity to speak tonight, but for those here that know me, they know that I work hard and what I can bring to the board. I'm hoping that you will vote not just for me, but for the entire Unite Sleepy Hollow ticket. Ken, Glenn, John, and I work well together. We do get it. And together we will make a difference in Sleepy Hollow. Thank you for coming.
And now we'll hear from the mayoral candidates. Karen?
Well, I hope that you have seen the differences between the two slates here tonight, and I hope that it's somehow made your decision easier or helped you to make a decision. In my background, my professional background, I have worked with world-class leaders in both business and healthcare, in both the business and healthcare industry. Their standards and expectations are the standards and expectations that I have for Sleepy Hollow. The mayor said that I had the majority, but it is the mayor who sets the direction, the tone, and the expectations with the staff. It is the mayor who works with the developers and the other municipality heads. We have waited long enough to address the issues that continue to plague our village. As the mayor of your village, I will have the resources and the ability and the position to finally address the things that we need to make Sleepy Hollow a successful village and to make the Lighthouse Landing development a successful development. And thank you for coming tonight.
Thanks. Thanks for turning out. Thanks for caring about your village. Thanks in advance for voting on Wednesday and for encouraging your neighbors to turn out and vote on Wednesday. This election has not gone the way this campaign rather, has not really gone the way I would have liked to have seen it. It would have been terrific if we'd all focused on the positive things that are in front of us, the incredible work that remains for us to do, the opportunities that we have to create a new Sleepy Hollow that will be the village of the future, the ideal 21st century village. That's what I would have loved to have focused on. And as mayor, that's what I intend to focus on. I think you've heard through the weeks leading up to this evening, and again this evening, a difference in approach, a difference in temperament, a difference in personalities. And I think that the hard work that I've put in bringing home the Lighthouse Landing project and other things deserves another term. I encourage you to get out there, vote, and especially vote for us. Thank you so much.
Okay, that is our evening. I want to thank everybody for coming out for your thoughtful questions and to remind you to get out to the polls next Wednesday, the 18th, and vote for the candidate that you think will best represent Sleepy Hollow.